All right. So you know how you want to live on the moon
Well, I
or on
think
Mars?
not. Yeah,
Not the
Mars.
moon, Mars, right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
Mars.
yeah. Mhm.
Okay. So I have a valid question.
Uh-huh.
How are you going to get your packages to Mars?
Well, that's an interesting question because I'm sure eventually Amazon will deliver there, but that's not going to be right away. And Mars is about a 7-month trip at our current state,
Wait
right? So it's
a
not
minute.
like
I hate a flight to Vegas because it's so far. Imagine a flight to Mars. Oh my
well, so let's just break it down. Okay, so Mars is 7 months away. The moon is 3 days away. Okay, relatively close. Because think about this: if you ordered something on Amazon Prime, you'd get it in 2 days.
God.
Moon maybe is only a day more than that. You get what I'm saying. So it's not the moon is not a big stretch. But here's my point: eventually you're going to have stuff sitting in outer space or pre-ship it, so you're going to have this giant floating warehouse in space that things are going to be stored in, because you'd have to somehow cut that time in half, right? Whether it's on Mars itself or whether it's somewhere in between, they're going to have to store supplies there. I mean, you see, like what NASA, what they do is they sometimes drop ship stuff in the location of where they plan on sending stuff. So they're already doing that, where they're pre-sending stuff into space for use. So they're already doing some of that in some ways. But as a consumer, how is that going to happen for you once you live out there? It's
Well, yeah,
really
I mean, think about all the moving parts in our, earthly supply chain, right? I mean, you've got like vendors you got to deal with, logistics, sourcing, order processing. I mean, there's the warehouses, there's all kinds of things to deal with just here on Earth.
right. Yeah.
Now, add the fact that you're dealing with, well, I think it's Mars is what, two? No. To the moon, it's 250,000 miles.
Right. So it's a 3-day trip. It's a 3-day trip, to my understanding.
Okay. Now we're going to add to that
Seven
you're
months.
shipping these
Seven
things.
months to Mars.
So how exactly are we going to get? Like, I really look forward to having, my items shipped to me the next day. So you're saying
Right.
that we need to create a sort of like
Giant
house,
floating warehouse right out
like
there.
the ISS kind of.
Right, right, where it's filled with, robots that are picking and packing parts and shipping them off into, whatever location you're in on Mars, But it's
Mhm.
sort of that same concept. Obviously, this is way down the road, because at first we're probably going to ship the stuff we need, but it's not like you could, you break your iPhone and you're going to run to the store and get a new one, right? So it's going to be one of those things where, and you're not going to, and there's, at first, I'm guessing there's not going to be a whole lot of manufacturing going on the
Mhm.
planet. Everything's going to be pre-made, right? So you're not going to have some assembly plant, manufacturing things. You will. But so basically, what I think is going to happen is you're going to have the supply chain that may even be hops. Like maybe stuff is first sent to the moon and then it's moved on to Mars, or maybe it's floating, somewhere in between Earth and Mars. And then when things are needed, it's shipped. Maybe in either direction, So it's like this freestanding warehouse because you may be also shipping stuff from Mars back to Earth. So you don't want to just think about the supply chain going one way. The supply chain may need to be bidirectional. Say, for instance, they're mining some sort of minerals or whatever on Mars, or they're sending stuff back, because we don't want to, pollute Mars the way we did our own planet, and just throw stuff into the ether,
Mhm.
so maybe they want to send that back to be recycled or whatever the case is, and they don't have the facilities. So I really think there's going to be these waypoints, where there goods are going to be stored, whether it's floating in space like the International Space Station, or whether it's a warehouse in the location. But that stuff will eventually be shipped there, especially once, and we're talking about at a high level when there's people living there as consumers, not like, hey, we're trying to colonize, because then they're going to make sure all the stuff is there to live and be shipped ahead of time to make sure they have the best chance of colonizing the planet.
Well, you're not too far off because actually we published an article on Parpicure recently about space supply chains. And
Mhm.
one of the things I was just reading about, actually, I'm looking at it right now. Um, basically MIT has been working with NASA in the space logistics realm for a while. They came up with this like 4 steps to achieving an integrated space logistics capability.
Mhm.
So they're already working on, terrestrial supply chain analogies, right?
Mhm.
They're working on space logistics, network analysis, exploration, demand supply modeling, and interplanetary supply chain architecture and trade studies. So this is, I understand that it's far away, but it's really not that far away, especially when you look at like, I think it was in 2018, NASA put out some RFP for a gateway logistics program, right, to
Mhm.
transport cargo, right?
Mhm.
I mean, from the gateway. That's like they're working on this. It's happening.
Right. Well, you got to remember too, like with especially things that are this complex, right? There are a lot of things. It's not like you just get in your car and you drive to Mars, right? There are things that are really and there's going to be a Target there, and do you know what I mean? And a CVS and all the stuff you need. So there has to be a lot of planning that goes on with this to make sure. Because here's the thing: you could send supplies, but think about it. If it takes 7 months to resupply every single time, you're basically, and you have, I'm just making this up, but you have 1,000 people or 10,000 people colonizing Mars. You're basically in a constant state of sending supplies, right?
Mhm.
So without warehousing it there, you're burning an awful lot of fuel, and you're making the process longer. So you'd have to be in a constant state of sending supplies if you weren't able to like warehouse things out there that may be needed.
Okay, can I ask a question?
Sure.
And I just thought of
Not that
something.
I know anything about this, but
No, it's more of it's a question, and I'm gonna kind of stray for a second. Why does anybody want to live on Mars? I mean, think about it. We're talking about things that are so far away.
Mhm.
I mean,
Okay.
yes, will people get to Mars in our lifetime? Maybe. But the
Mhm.
things that we're talking about, I mean, our children probably won't even experience.
Well,
So
I
why are
mean,
we doing this?
well, here's the thing. I mean, it's like anything else. Why did people, come, in the United States, you had the colonization of, the United States, right? And so basically people started off in the Northeast and then eventually they needed to settle the whole country, right? And utilize the whole country and spread out and whatever resources. And, so but basically what happened is they went out. Why would anyone have gone during the land rush in Oklahoma to Oklahoma, right?
Wasn't it for resources or something? I mean, it was for
Right. And so then what's the difference? There'll be
don't we
different.
know what's there already? That's my point. Like, it's not like we're
Well,
just exploring it for the first time. We want to get there. Maybe there's
we
something really
do.
great there.
Right. We do and we don't. We know so much, but I think also too it's like if man is going to be an extraterrestrial creature, right? If we're gonna, go out into the universe and populate for whatever that's worth, right? We need a jumping off point. We don't have the capabilities to first go and then go and populate, some planet that's Earth-like that maybe I'm just making this up, like 4 bazillion light years away. Like we don't have that technology to do that. So what's happening is we're starting with something closer. Now, there are also people that believe that Mars was colonized at one time. And basically, I mean, there are people that believe that Earth is just basically the suburb of Mars. Like it was colonized one time, whatever happened, happened. And now we're here. Right. So some people believe you're going back to the origins of where humans started. If you believe, so it just really depends on belief. I think there's a lot of people like myself who are just very curious people who enjoy adventure because let's be honest, whoever's going to Mars, you're not turning around and coming home. It's not like how some college students go cross country because they don't plan on, they're going to live on their own and not come. And other people only go, 3 miles away from their house, even if they live at campus because they always know they can come home. This isn't for the people that want to come home right away. It's really not. This is for people who are looking to do something new, maybe do something different with their life or change the way things are, or maybe just they just love space so much this would be great for them. So I think there are people that it's for and there are people that it's not for. And I think like you said, by the time it's really colonized, we'll be way too old to be going, but
I
maybe
don't
our
know. I think by the time we actually have these like, supply chains in place that we're talking about to make it an actual livable, real livable. I don't mean just habitable. I mean like livable, right? Like where
well
you
if
can live a life.
Yeah, well, if you're thinking like, you're going to have a target there, I mean, a lot of people telling us, in 2035, you'll have people on Mars, right?
But no
So
target.
what?
But no target.
But no target. You're not going to have
Okay, there's
target
no
there.
point in going anywhere if there's no
Right.
target.
You get my point. There's not going to be a target there in 2035. Maybe that's something I'm just making this up, but that's something for Target's going to be there in 2050. But you get where I'm going. Like it's not just like in the old west, or basically they populated. Maybe other people came and they sprouted up towns and cities and things like that, and then industries and stuff like that. And it's sort of, I can't see it going much different, but those people didn't have a lot of supplies. They had what they could take with them. And sometimes
They also
people,
didn't. They were also weren't up against the challenges that we're up against by trying to go to Mars. I mean, going to Oklahoma was very different than going to
well,
Mars.
yeah, but they weren't driving cars and they didn't have trains. So they were taking wagon trains, and it took them months and months
All right,
across
maybe it took them just as long to get to,
right.
to get to
I don't know
Oklahoma.
how long it took. Yeah, I don't know how long it took, but they were dealing with hostile environments. They were dealing with unknown weather and unknown lands. So it's. I'm not saying it's the same. I think with Mars, you're talking about different atmosphere and stuff like that, like things people weren't really designed to live in. But my point is, you're still dealing with, a harsh environment that they were unaware of. My point is, in terms of a supply chain, they had what they brought with them, and then eventually people started shipping stuff out to them. If we do this correctly, when we decide to populate it, what we're going to do is we're going to have some of those supplies there ahead of time. Meaning, like, so some of that's already set up for them before they get there. So it's not so hard. So they're not like, even though they're pioneers, they're not going to be like, okay, now I got to build my house and my shelter. That hopefully will be set up for them so they don't have to figure out how they're going to breathe oxygen for, the next 10 minutes when they hit Mars. All that stuff should be set up for them. Whereas, for people, populating, whatever, the United States or any country really, they had to figure it out as they were going.
Okay, so what if we developed our robots
Mhm.
so much so that we get some of the robots there
Yeah,
first,
that's
set everything up?
absolutely, that has been on the radar, and they've been talking about that for decades, having robotic life, and go out there and basically be able to do some of these things for when organic life comes there, right?
Mhm.
So I mean, even what's the robot that's on the International Space Station? Oh my gosh, were you with me when we met him? What? I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
I know who you're talking about.
Right. So my point is, they've already put robots in space to even deal with some of the harsh environments on the space station that we don't necessarily want people to have to endure. So yeah, absolutely. I mean, what do you think? I mean, the rovers are collecting data, right? But
Mhm.
it's no different. We're and that's what always amazes me when people think, I mean, I believe there's life out there, but to think that like it's always going to be aliens, like robotic life, like we're sending robotic life out. Another intelligent creature would probably also send robotic life out if it's
Sure.
organic, right? Because of the time it takes to travel and to look for things.
Like a
So
UFO, which I'm not going to get into, even though I know UFOs are blowing up and trending right now.
yeah,
But okay, so on a funny side note,
uh-huh.
related, what are some of the things that could go wrong if you send robots to Mars to set up for us?
Oh.
Imagine all the things that could go wrong.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. What's interesting about that is you already have a lot of case studies for that, right? With if you look at all the rovers and how long some of the rovers lasted. I mean, they're very different types of robots, but they already have real data and real information about the impact of robots. But yeah, it could go wrong. They'd be like, "You're not landing here. We're taking for ourselves, and
Reverse, reverse, and they're
it's
like,
gonna be the
"It's
first
our house
robot."
now."
Right, this is gonna be the robot republic of Mars, you know what I mean? Like, they could totally, yeah, I mean, because here's the thing, they are gonna have to be autonomous to some degree, right? They're gonna have to be able to act and engage with the environment on their own. Even though we're able to send them code and change things, they have to be able to somewhat, navigate on their own. So they will be decently intelligent robots that would be going and doing these things. So I mean,
They're
it is.
gonna get parts of the house that aren't native to them because they're robots and they don't need
Mhm.
toilets, so they just build a whole bunch of houses with no
Yeah,
toilets. Like they could do a whole bunch of things wrong.
Oh, yeah. I mean, think about it. If you left it fully up to them, they could actually build houses that don't have a clean air supply because they don't need air,
That's true.
right? Or if you're talking about toilets, they may not have kitchens because they don't need to cook and eat.
That's
They
right.
may
So
build
basically,
like
they're going to build us boxes, metal boxes.
yeah, well, it's going to be like sort of like maybe like a giant hamster cage, and then they just have like the little water bottle and the little feeding thing or something that humans
Oh my
get.
gosh, they're going to keep us as pets.
That's right.
We're
You'd
going to
be a
get there.
pet.
They're going to
You'd
say,
be a
"Welcome to
pet.
your home," and then they're going to just shut the cage.
Yeah, you're going to be a pet to like a big dog or a spot, like one of those Boston Dynamic, robots. It'd be pretty insane.
All right, so we really got to get our supply chain going, so we don't have to leave it up to the robots.
That's right. So you're not the pet of a robot, is what we've discovered.
All right. Well, if anybody wants to let us know how they think we should be shipping things to Mars, feel free to actually shoot us a text message. So let me get you that number.
Here we go. It's up on the screen.
All right, there you go. There's the number 631-380-4740. That's 1-631-380-4740, and send us a text. Let us know what you think, and feel free to tell us what could go wrong if robots set up for us on Mars.